Hey everyone, and welcome to another Game of Thrones Tower Babble breakdown. As always, I'm Julian and Meush. I am joined by Daniel D'Souza.
What's up?
And we are here to break down Game of Thrones as a show, and just as a show, not a book. It's a television series on HBO, and that's how we talk about it here. We don't spoil anything from the books. Dan has a bit of knowledge, although every episode, Dan's ability to spoil something is less and less relevant, less of a problem, I'd say. We kind of help unpack and grasp every detail from the latest episode, and we kind of do it for ourselves too, just to kind of wrap our own brains around it, and then at the same time trying to help you guys do the same thing. So with that all being said, it's another early show for us, so I apologize for my morning voice. I have my tea, but we'll see. It's gonna take a little while before I sound normal again. It was a long night last night. I do apologize. So let's just get right into it, because the faster we get into it, the faster I'll be awake. So some feedback we got from last week. It's not necessarily about last week's episode necessarily, but some emails we got over the week. I did get some nice emails about the improved sound quality from last week's episode that we did, and I appreciate that, because I'd heard the call that we weren't sounding up to par, so we kind of did what we could, and it should be better now. It's still not quite where I want it, but it's better. What else do we have? Oh, okay. So here, this is in regards to a question we had asked in last week's episode about what is the Night King's motivation to attack Bran in the first place? Like, why is he important to him? And so this is from at Pojo Blade on Twitter, and you can send us questions on Twitter to at Tower Babblecast. So Tower Babble Tower Babblecast. And he asks, what if Bran goes south of the wall and the Night's King Mark allows the White Walkers to be able to follow? So this is obviously a theory.
I really like that, yeah.
That people have had since last week on the show. I'm sure people have had. I don't know. It's not a book thing yet. We're ahead of the books here, right?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. This is a theory. There's a theory online that he will, like, if he goes beyond the wall, the wall will literally fall over. Like, you'll just like, there's like magic in the wall that keeps it together. I guess that's a little known fact about the wall itself, is that it has magic like their cave did, right?
Well, yeah. The Children of the Forest helped the First Men create the wall, and they used their magics to erect it. So there's supposed to be a ward on the wall, like the ward on the cave that wouldn't let the dead things in.
Right.
So there's supposed to be a ward that wouldn't let dead things on that side of the wall. But if Bran is on the other side, he could do that weird ice trick or whatever to bring down the wall.
Okay. Well, I mean, and then they're saying, and it's like it would literally make the wall fall, like the magic that keeps the wall together.
Yeah. No, I've been saying it since the beginning of the season. The wall's coming down this season in some way.
Why are you so certain about that?
I don't actually know that. I'm just saying that.
Okay. I haven't looked at. I haven't looked at the future titles for the episodes this season. I try not to. I'll look at next week's episode's title after I see this week's. I'm not sure if anything gives away any hints or anything, so I don't want to speculate on that, because I do want to speculate on that. That's our job here, to speculate. I don't want to, if we know anything from those future episode titles, I try not to use that as like as an insight,
Yeah.
And then so we got another question on Twitter. This one's from friend of the show, Beatrice, and she brings up another theory. Maybe the letter did not come from. This is the letter that Ramsay sent to Jon and Sansa 2 episodes ago. The people in the book readers, I think they call it the pink letter. Is there a reason it's called that?
Okay, the pink letter. Pink is kind of one of the colors of, or is the color of House Bolton, and I think the letter, like it. I don't know if it's made out of someone's skin, or if like it has a piece of skin in it or something along those lines.
Okay. Okay, so anyway, the book in the show, it's no one calls it the pink letter, but we'll use that just to ground it, so we know what we're talking about. And she sends this image that shows compares a letter, Bolton letter received by I'm not sure who it is in the first part of the image, with a brown seal with the sigil, then two other letters. One that's the letter from supposedly from Ramsay at Winterfell, and then another that is a letter sent by Littlefinger with Littlefinger's sigil on it. So I guess the takeaway from the image is that the first one from the Boltons from earlier in this series has brown wax with the sigil, and then the two from Littlefinger have red wax and look more similar. I think people are looking a little bit too deep into.
I mean, they could just be using different wax. It could be that simple.
Yeah, right. Which was my theory. The tweet that Beatrice said kind of started a chain, of Twitter reactions. And there's one James Bushnell. He sent a couple tweets, and I'm just going to read them out like they were all one message. So only way Ramsay didn't write the letter is if Karstark/Umber is feeding Littlefinger inside info. Ramsay wouldn't let anyone in Winterfell know about Rickon being alive. He threatens his claim. Only way this works is if the Umbers or Karstarks are working with Littlefinger. Only they know about Rickon. Which, good insight there, James. And I totally agree with you. There's no reason. It seems like complications for complication's sake.
Although I wouldn't put it past Littlefinger to be, masterminding it all.
It's not. I don't put it like you said. I don't put it past Littlefinger either. But I think in this case, specifically, I don't think it's him this time. Especially because we learned that he wasn't lying about the Blackfish at Riverrun either, which we speculated could have been a ruse as well.
Well, again, Littlefinger being the man that he is, if he had this information about Rickon, he would feed Sansa the information about the Blackfish. Maybe he knew that she would kind of spur him not want his help or whatever, and this is his other way to make sure that he and the Knights of the Vale are still going to be involved. It is a bit of a stretch, but that's just my justification for it.
Fair enough. And let's just add to the speculation just a little bit more. We had an email, and you can write emails to us at towerofbabblepodcast@gmail.com. And Matthew Graham emailed us, and he had another take on the pink letter. He's on the Littlefinger Road at camp, and I'll just read it here saying, "Hey, to start with, I'm a relatively new listener. I just wanted to say thanks for giving me something fun and interesting to listen to for the last few weeks." You're welcome, Matthew. Appreciate the kind words. Thank you. So, secondly, in the episode Book of the Stranger, the letter Jon receives had an interesting wording choice that leads me to believe Ramsay didn't write it. The repeated use of the phrase "come and see" is what makes me think this, as earlier in that same episode, Littlefinger says that same phrase before leaving to head to the north. It just seems too coincidental to me. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. So I went and found that scene. It's the scene where he threatens that Knights of the Vale.
Royce.
What's that?
Bronzion Royce.
And he does say it, but it's in regards to the present he got for what's his
Robin
name?
Arryn.
The little guy.
Sweet Robin.
Robin. So yeah, he. I mean, those are two. I mean, that's another. It's just. I think it's just a coincidence. I'm firmly in the camp. Although, have we seen Ramsay since the letter?
No,
we
I don't think so.
Hey? So that's only stoking the fires even more. I think
it's an interesting word choice, and it's a nice catch to notice that.
It's very subtle.
Yeah,
It's very subtle.
Yeah, A nice touch, I guess, if that's what they chose to do.
I keep saying it's just coincidence, coincidence, coincidence. Maybe I'm the crazy one.
Yeah, I mean, how many
You know?
how many coincidences can there be?
And I think that covers that. I think it's just a wait and see game at this
Basically,
point.
yeah.
We also got a really great email that we absolutely loved it about our criticism, or my criticism that I had of people were giving me a lot of shit about it on Twitter and stuff about me not liking the scene where Dany burns all the calls in the Dosh Khalin's hut thing. And I kind of want to read the whole thing, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to just I'll just read the front part of it, the top part of it, because it's pretty funny. So, hey guys, love your show. Only started listening to Game of Thrones podcast this week. Love your work. Thank you. It's from Oleg Popovich. Yeah, I don't know. Popovac? Tough last name, yeah. Oleg. Tough last name. Nice one. Good try. So, I just wanted to say, let you know to stick by your criticism of that ridiculous hut burning scene. My hate for Daenerys aside, so he's a little biased. That was a dumb looking scene. Sure, it's, quote, it's a grease fire and grease spreads fast through a hut, unquote, except she was and you can imagine a lot of, like, hand quotes, like finger quotes in the air during this. Anyways, yeah, grease fast through a fire, except she was dropping those tiny pots in slow motion, and surely those tiny pots don't hold sacks and sacks of grease, which I love the idea that grease comes in sacks. Furthermore, which is in all caps, by the way, as soon as she does that, the room full of, quote, Genghis Khans is absolutely dumbstruck and instantly runs out of ideas like, throw a spear. Surely someone is hiding a dagger. Try to throw it at them. Surely, as the fire was just starting, one of the hunking barbaric Attilas would try to leap the thing and get to the little blonde lady to try to stop her from knocking down more fire. Instead, they are all burning idiots like, what? What's fire? Where am I? What a dumb scene, and what a complete void of logic. It's just served yet another scene where Daenerys can be the idealistic, quote-unquote, liberator. She's either liberating or apologizing for starting a civil war. She has zero leadership skills. Ned Stark made one mistake and loses his head. Daenerys starts a civil war and gains an army by standing naked in a fire. Good one, Karma. And then at the end here, he goes on to say a little bit more. Touches on Hodor as well. And then at the end, P.S. Characters that are better leaders than Daenerys. Ned, Tyrion, Littlefinger, Tywin, Lady Tyrell, Cersei, Varys, Roose, Sansa, Stannis. All the advisors she's ever had. That new guy in Scotland, Iron Islands, who's about to make 1,000 ships in like a week. Pretty much anybody else who has the luxury of... who would not have the luxury of scary-ass dragons. I love the intensity, Oleg. Love it. I do stand by my my criticism of that scene. I wouldn't go that far, but I do love the inclusion of room full of Genghis Khans, which is hilarious, and hulking Attilas, also nice word choice. What else do we have here? We have...
It's a good point, though. I mean, Daenerys is kind of like Mr. Magoo, you know? She just kind of stumbles around and everything ends up okay, you know? Like, she just always stumbles into some happy accident and ends up with another army. It's a little...
You think Mr. Magoo... Yeah. How convenient. Mm-hmm. I think Mr. Magoo is a bit harsh, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
It's not that bad. We also got a... You also got a message on our website. You can drop us a message on the website, towerbabblepodcast.com, at the Contact Us page. And it's from Stan Dobbins, and he was just... he was talking about what we were talking about, time paradoxes and closed paradoxical loops. and he suggested a write-up on GameFAQs that is about Final Fantasy 13. I didn't have the chance to read it yet, Stan. It's pretty long.
It's really long.
It's really long, and I've never played Final Fantasy 13. So, but it is a good insight into more time travel shenanigans. So if anyone wants to check that out, that's on GameFAQs.
We can post the link too.
Yeah. And then we have an email from Sarah Coe in regards to motivations of the White Walkers killing Bran. This is the same idea as before. I should have put this up there. I wrote these show notes pretty late last night, and I had a few, so you guys just excuse me. So this is from Sarah Coe. Hi, I just wanted to listen to your last podcast about Game of Thrones episode, The Door. I had a thought about one of your questions that you may find interesting. As we know, men have defeated the White Walkers once, way back in history, and has made a wall to keep them confined. Bran is the only person who can actually go back and figure out what was the secret to their defeat. So I think it was very normal that they see Bran as their biggest threat. Not to mention that Bran is the only person who may be able to let Jon know that he's actually Targaryen and potentially be Azor Ahai. You're still jumping to conclusions there, but not jumping as far as you used to be. Mm-hmm. So I think these are two very strong reasons for White Walkers to want him dead. I mean, the second one is more to do with Jon than the White Walkers, but the first one is a good point, actually. He could act. I mean, we talked about. Did we talk about the theory that Bran is actually he's a bunch of Brans through history? Did we talk about that on the show?
Yeah, we did last week.
Yeah. So he could be Bran the Builder, and that's how and stuff like that, and that's how we learn about all this stuff in the first place. So that's interesting. Bran the Builder, of course, is who built the wall with the help of the Children of the Forest.
Children of the Giants in the first one, yeah.
Yeah. So another. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, thanks for writing in. Clearly, we didn't look into the motivations of the Night King enough. I think it's actually a little bit more clear than we had made it seem last week.
Yeah, well, it does make sense. Also, they mentioned it this week that Bran is, and I think we talked about it last week potentially being the case, and they say it this week that he's the new three-eyed raven. So he's kind of the only real threat that the White Walkers have.
Right. Speaking of the three-eyed raven,
yeah.
By the way, Sarah writes in from Croatia, so yeah, shout out to Croatia. That's pretty cool. We also got an email from Alessandro, also talking about the three-eyed raven, and we had wondered why did the three-eyed raven bring him to that Winterfell scene, only so that Hodor could get mind, like mess with Hodor's mind, basically. And then this theory from Alessandro is that he brought him there because he knew he had to be there, because he knew all this was going to happen already. And then, yes, that kind of begs the question, how much did the three-eyed raven even know about what was going to happen? Did he know he was going to die there? Very Looper-esque.
This is why time travel complicates everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's there because he had to be there in order to, all that stuff.
Right. The closed paradoxical loop, like we talked.
I could have sworn we did talk about that last week, but may have gotten cut out.
Yep. I'll just bringing it up again. So let's get into the episode. Mm-hmm. This is season 6, episode 6, Blood of My Blood, and I want to ask you why you think that's called that. I don't know. Do you want to wait till the end?
We can do that at the end. I guess I think it has to do with the final scene.
Okay, and the director of this episode is Jack Bender. He's the same guy as last week from Lost and Alias and a couple other things. The synopsis for this episode is: Bran and Mira find a new ally. Gilly meets Sam's family. Arya makes a difficult choice. The Lannisters and Tyrells march against the High Sparrow. Pretty straightforward. All the synopsises this season are like that. Very, very vague. And the episode starts beyond the wall, north of the wall. We pick up moments after the tragic finale of The Door. Mira's on the run, dragging a spaced-out Bran. We get a very un-Game of Thrones splash of like how would you call it? Like collage of scenes, super quick cuts from the past and present. There's one particular one that stands out. You hear "Burn them all," which is the first time we actually see the Mad King.
Aerys.
Mad King Aerys on screen or hear him, I guess you can barely.
Either,
It's hard to make out. I'd have to go back and slow it down scene by scene. Is there anything else you took away from those like flashes that Bran was having?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the idea is Bran now has that information, like everything that's happened in the series that we're aware of, that the other characters aren't. Bran has all of that now, right? So he's sort of like a Matrix, like download of all that information. It was cool to see the Mad King and the wildfire, and also we saw Jaime kill the Mad King in that series of flashes there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was Jaime in the white cloak
cool.
walking up to the
thing.
Iron Throne and stabbing him.
That's another thing we've only heard talked about, never actually seen.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So he's seeing flashes of the past, potentially of the future, and then of the present, like of the undead army following him.
And it's interesting to note that the wildfire was like a focal point of those images that might have.
You think that's gonna?
Yeah, it'll play a part in the war against the White Walkers in some capacity, I think.
Well, it seems to be like regular fire obviously doesn't do anything. We saw that last week. They had that like line of fire that they did around the cave entrance that the White Walkers literally just walked through like it was no big deal. But wildfire's green, and green fire obviously has different properties. I think
wildfire also like it can't be put out by water and stuff. That's why they used it on the black water. It's like an oil fire, like it would float on the water or whatever.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's hard to say. The show drops hints left and right about everything. Sometimes they're red herrings, sometimes they're not. I think in this case you're probably right. What else happens? Oh, so he wakes up. He says they found us, which is really ominous. And then the skeletons undead army finds them, and then they get saved by a mysterious figure on a horse in a cloak with a sweet like fire chain thing, very Ghost Rider-esque.
Yeah,
Can we call him Ghost Rider? He's kind of Ghost Rider, hey? I mean, from the books, we know who the character from the books who'd existed before, hadn't been in the show up to this point, widely speculated to be. Actually, why don't you tell it? So, who is this character from the books before the reveal?
Well, see, here's the weird thing. Like in the books, this is Cold Hands, and that's all. That's the only name he's ever given in the books, and it's been theorized that he's Benjen Stark, which later on in this episode we find out that he is. Although George Martin has specifically gone out of his way to say that he's not Benjen Stark in the book, so I don't know what to think of that.
Yeah, I think he was probably just lying about that. Let's be honest.
No, in the books he's a much older character, but it's not a big deal.
Oh, okay. It's yeah. He might have just combined two characters here.
Yeah, it just makes sense this way.
Yeah, I like you just like breeze over. Hey, Benjen Stark saved them. Yeah, Benjen freaking Stark haven't been seen since like the third episode of the first season, or is it just? Or is it the was it even the first episode maybe of the first season?
No, I would say like second or third. He goes out of range because John goes with him to the wall.
Anyway, so yeah, cool action scene, like I was saying. Fireball-esque chain thing. It's a cool way to take out undead. I mean, he's probably been doing this for a while, so he knows the tricks.
I guess that's the perfect weapon for it.
What is it? Is it just like a chain with a fire in it?
It's sort of like a flail, I guess you would call it.
I don't know. I've never seen a weapon like that before. It's cool. Cold Hands, not the character. Pretend like so people think that. So George R. R. Martin said specifically that it's not him in the books. Is it possible he was just lying about that? Is it that possible?
I mean, it's possible, but he doesn't normally do stuff like he wouldn't just straight up lie. He's a bit more like sly than that. He would find some way to you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you could say it's not
straight up say no.
You could say it's not Benjen Stark, or you could say it used to be Benjen Stark. You could have
something along those lines.
That.
Yeah. Although again, I'm pretty sure it's not important, but he's much older in the books.
So he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when they talk about him, they say that he was killed like hundreds of years ago or something like that.
I mean, that could be just like stories, though. You know,
couldn't
that be like myths? So we're gonna combine the two scenes here. Obviously, we talked about the reveal, which comes later in the episode, but we're gonna talk about talk about it now. He was sent by the Three-Eyed Raven, or he was called for by the Three-Eyed Raven. Is that what Benjen said? Okay. He also gives us his backstory. What's the, or like his origin, kind of. What's the story here? Lay it out.
Basically, he was ranging with his party early in the first season to go find Waymar Royce, who was killed in the prologue, basically, like the first episode. Those guys who are ranging beyond the wall. So Benjen's sent to go find them, and then his party is also attacked by the White Walkers, and he's killed but not turned because the Children of the Forest are able to save him from becoming a white by stabbing him with dragon glass.
Oh, okay.
So he is dead. That's why he looks all pale and stuff, but he's not a White Walker, or not a white. His eyes didn't turn blue because the children were able to stop that process from happening somehow.
Okay, but I don't understand. So wait, so he did come back to life, but not as a white, because he was brought back to life by the White Walkers, but didn't become a white because the Children of the Forest saved him from that happening. But that's how he still came back to life because...
Well, he didn't come back to life. He was reanimated, but he's still dead.
Okay.
So he's like...
But it was the White Walkers who reanimated him. That's how that happened.
I think that's the idea, yeah. They bring all those whites back. That's just what they do. So they brought him back, but the Children of the Forest were able to stab him and prevent him from becoming their slave, essentially.
Okay, that makes sense. Kind of, not really.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
When you saw the dragon glass used for to create the White Walkers in the first place, it now also, we know it kills them. It also now prevents the the dead from being brought back. It's interesting.
It's probably important. Not just the dragon glass. It's that the children are using it in a specific manner.
Okay, right. Okay, that's fair. Okay. Anything else we learn? I guess I would say that the way that this all plays out, they get tracked down fairly quickly by the White Walkers army. Kind of makes Hodor's sacrifice at the end of last week seem kind of less important, which kind of sucks because
it does.
He sacrificed himself for nothing almost at that point because they got discovered anyway. Well,
presumably those aren't the ones from the door; they're just other ones that were sent, over the mountain, around, whatever.
But still, you know what I mean, right? Kind of sucks. Of course, R.I.P. Hodor, of course. Anything else from this scene? I mean, it's pretty cool having another Stark back. You don't get very many Starks just waltzing up out of nowhere these days. I mean, Headless Ned isn't gonna just turn up one day. I mean, assume. So that's cool. There's people pointing out on Twitter. It's like if you've been keeping score, it's +1 Stark this week, and this season it's +1 Stark, -2 direwolves. So that sucks. Or is it +2 Starks? +2 Starks because Jon came back. I mean, he's not technically Stark. I know. Whatever. Anything else? Any other takeaways from this scene that's important to note?
It's cool that it's Benjen, that we got that confirmation. Like, he's one of those big mysteries that in both the books and the show they keep reminding us of. So it's clear that he wasn't just going to have disappeared. So we'll finally have him back. Right. That's cool.
It's one of those, like, you wouldn't keep talking about it unless it was going to play. He was going to play into the story again in some way, even if it was his dead body. But still. That's interesting. I would say, do we know what their plan is? Do we know where they're going?
We have no idea. We don't even know if they're heading north or south. But we do know that they were very far north, so... I mean, you can't get much further north, and there's only enemies that way, so we assume they're going south.
Right. And then we worry about the health of the wall, assuming that happens. Although I'm sure Benjen has some kind of insight into that of some kind. At least I would expect so. So let's move on to Hornhill. This is a home of Sam's family, the
Tarleys.
What are they? Tarleys. Okay. So he's taking Gilly and Sam Jr. to meet his family before he leaves for Old Town, become a maester. I really like the moment with the three of them in the carriage. It's a really nice, tender scene. Feels very natural. They feel like a natural couple now. You know, you can see how the relationship is kind of formed. We get a really nice establishing shot of Hornhill. It's a pretty cool looking house. Gonna be honest here, pretty cool. And,
I was thinking like this is like, if you think about it, like one of the better regions to live in the Seven Kingdoms right now. They, surrounded by forests and plenty. They're just like a happy, easygoing family, other than the Randall Tarly.
And then Sam's sister and mother are basically the best mother and daughter duo we've seen in the entire show. I'd say, like, as far as just like pure niceness, we don't really they're not really established very well, but like. We learn pretty quick that his mom is super nice. His sister's also super nice. Even his brother who's named Dickon is super nice. And you don't see that coming with a guy named Dickon. It just doesn't happen very often. And but on the other hand, Sam did a really good job of painting a picture about what his dad was like. Basically exactly like he said he would be.
Yeah, he wasn't exaggerating at all. He's just a dick.
And that's his younger brother. Dickon's his younger brother, right? Mm-hmm. Is that okay?
Sam's the firstborn. The sword was meant to go to him. All that stuff, and he's like the disappointment to his father. Clearly.
Mm-hmm. You think? I love like that. I mean, that part where he said like his mom asked him if he wants some more bread, and then his dad's like, "You're fat enough," which is really harsh, and that just starts the whole base downward spiral from there. Gilly gives a really good speech about Sam like protecting her, having killed a White Walker and a few other things. And then, man, the whole time, I actually yelled at the TV and said, like say something, Sam, like anything, defend yourself. Like, don't just stand there and just take it. I mean, you think he's been through so much by now, and he still can't stand up to his own dad. It's kind of sad in a way. I mean,
well, he's reduced to like the man he was before he went to the wall when he goes to his father's house. Like this is an old hurt, and he wasn't ready for it.
I can't believe like he seems like a fairly. I mean, they're doing pretty well for themselves, the Tarleys apparently. He's saying he's going to go become a maester, and then return to the wall. And like this is even a disappointment to him. Like it's a pretty big deal, right? So
for Randall Tarly, it's a dishonor to his house for one of his sons to become a maester. Maesters live a life of servitude. They're always serving somebody else, or serving a lord, and he didn't want that for his son. He was embarrassed. Earlier in Sam's life, he wanted to become a maester, and his father wouldn't allow it, and he like chained him to the ground for overnight or something like that to show him what being in chains felt like.
Oh wow! Okay.
So he's like, yeah, like you said earlier, intense. Harsh is a good way to describe Randall Tarly.
So what happens? Okay, so there's Gilly gives a speech. We get he throws in a reference to the sword out of nowhere, it seems a little unnatural, but I still like it because the sword is freaking cool. What's the sword's name?
Heartsbane.
Heartsbane. Cool name. That's a cool name for a sword. I think it's not as cool as Longclaw, but it's up there. We know it's Valyrian steel, so we know that's going to play a role at some point. Of course, the more Valyrian steel swords we have, the better, usually. And so we get another scene of, so Sam's mom walks out on them on the dinner. Takes the girls and leaves. Then there's a scene where basically Sam's saying goodbye. And we're like, okay, well, he's leaving them there. She's going to have to work in the kitchens or something like that because she's a wildling and he doesn't like wildlings. It's weird, like, for someone who lives so far south to have to hate wildlings so much seems like that's more of a northern thing, doesn't it?
That's a good point. It definitely is. I guess he's just trained that way. He's old school. They're born knowing about wildlings, even though they don't have to deal with them, and they have to be afraid of them and hate them.
Fair enough. And then the last scene with Sam, he's saying goodbye. It's pretty well done, where he closes the door, he lingers on the door for like another second, and then he bursts back in. He's like, "No, we're leaving." Do you think this is a good plan? Do you think this is a good idea?
Well, I mean, leaving and going where? That's what I'm confused about. Because he obviously now he can't go to Old Town and become a maester. If his father knew that's where he was headed, that'd be the first place he'd look for his sword, right?
Right. You wouldn't. Yeah.
So,
If you
but
if
at
you
the
were
same
gonna,
time,
if you're
that's
just
kind
gonna
of
leave
where
and continue
Sam's
the
story is
plan.
headed.
Hmm. I don't know. He can't take. I thought it was a weird move to take the sword. Actually, I don't know. Why do you think he did that? Just to spite his dad? Is that a spite
Well,
entirely?
partially that it is his blood right as the firstborn, and also they have a urgent need of Valyrian steel at the wall, so it kind of makes sense.
It sucks. He's kind of. His mom was treating him really nice, and doing this kind of actually. She put faith into him, trusted him, and now he's kind of. That kind of sucks because his mom is super nice, like I said. But I mean, doing this is just now it's a slap in the face to the family. It was his dad had already cast him out, which is bad enough, and now he basically stole the sword, which is not cool.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. What could they what's the plan? I guess he's just trying to protect the two of them, but are they gonna go back to the wall?
Well, that's the thing. Like
Seems
Sam's
unlikely.
not deserting the Night's Watch, but he was commanded to go to Old Town and become. And I always kind of imagined that Sam clearly he would make a good maester, and I thought that was where his story was headed. The only other thing I'll say is where they are right now. It's not that it would make sense, but if they decide to go northwest, I guess they could end up at Riverrun, which is an area that other characters are converging on now.
Yeah, it's a
But it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to go that way, right?
And he also doesn't know about what's going on over there. If he did, it would be that's another coincidence if that played out that way. Okay, so anything else you want to take away? You want to mention about the Hornhill stuff? Any takeaways you want us to remember? Important story beats? Anything?
I think that the most important thing, yeah, is that he took the sword. Just like Valyrian steel is going to be important going forward, and then every Valyrian sword is going to count at the wall.
And the thing is, most houses have their own Valyrian steel sword. Most
don't. They're very rare. Most rich houses do, but more of them have been lost than are still in circulation, or whatever you want to call it.
How do they lost? How stolen? At the bottom of the sea?
The Lannister sword. Tywin's uncle took it with him on some ships. They went to go to Valyria. He took a fleet to Valyria to find treasure and magic and whatever, and they never returned. So it was lost over there somewhere. I don't know, stuff like that. People go adventuring.
Okay.
Or they're just buried in some vault somewhere.
Yeah. Let's move on to Bravos. And we have Arya's storyline picked up here. She's scoping out the play again. We see a new scene this time. This one with Lady Crane's reaction as Cersei's reaction to the quote-unquote purple wedding when
Joff was poisoned.
What's it? Joffrey? Yeah, Joffrey was poisoned. We see Arya smiling in the scene. When's the last time you saw Arya smile?
Yeah, it's been a while. She's been pretty dark lately.
And so we then see Arya get to work doing what she was basically ordered to do. She poisoned Lady Grey's rum, but before she can leave, she actually bumps into her, which is she not very good sneaking there, Arya. Come on.
Yeah, I feel like that's rule number 1. Don't get caught.
She was literally just she wasn't really sneaking. She was just walking around expecting no one to notice her, I guess. And she comes face to face with Lady Grey, and they have a really nice conversation.
Lady Crane.
She kind of tells her, "What did I say? Grey? Why did you say why? I in my notes I have it Crane, and then the next time I wrote it, it's Grey." I told you it was a long night last night.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so I start. Yeah, so Crane and then Grey for the rest of it in the notes. So Lady Crane kind of gives her secret origin of how she became an actress. She says Arya would probably make a good actress, which makes sense because she's always been lying, doing a better job lying anyway. Okay, so this bugs me, and this is let me just skip ahead. I'll just say, so she has the scene, then she's about to drink she basically takes Arya's notes on the play to the playwright, who basically dismisses them offhand. And then she's about to drink her poison rum. Arya comes back out of nowhere, knocks the drink out of her hand, blames the young one, and then leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Only for us to find out the waif saw the whole thing, right? So this is where this thing starts to kind of bug me a bit. So we had talked about whether or not if she was lying to the faceless man about being nobody, right?
Yeah.
For a while, like this has been like
for this whole season.
My question is, if he's always been able to know whether she's lying, did he just stop caring? And he's like, well, he's listened to it enough. He's seen her beat up enough. She might be lying, but I'll just let it go this time. Like, what's the deal? Or is that just script? Script needs it to be this way. So,
I think it's definitely that. This is her final test. Maybe this is what would have made her drawn the line for her if she could just be callous and be nobody and have no feelings or morals about who she's assigned to kill. Maybe this would have proven that to them. But or maybe she just got better at lying that whole time. You know,
it's a possibility. I don't. That seems like a bit of it seems a bit of like weak.
Well, that was our big complaint about Arya's story, like for the past couple episodes, that she just keeps saying I'm no one, and they're like, yeah, whatever, and then like the story still kind of moves along. But now finally, I'm actually enjoying where this is. I'm happy that this finally happened. Enough of her in Bravos. Get her on the other side of the sea.
This was a theme for a lot of this episode, where we had a lot of storylines and plots that I thought were just not working, or were just super boring and super slow, all started to pick up and got somewhere, did something for once, which was nice, a nice change. And this is one of them. So she saves Lady Crane's life, then goes and collects Needle. We haven't seen Needle for a long time. Still hidden in the wall outside of the House of Black and White. And then she goes off to some dark room somewhere.
Some cave, I don't know.
Not sure. We're not sure exactly where. Some kind of crypt, and blows out a candle. I guess the idea is that all that training blind is gonna pay off for her. She's going there expecting the waif to come after her. I would imagine, right? So she's kind of, it's like her defense. It's gonna be pitch black in there, and she's gonna use her sword, and she's gonna kill the waif. That's my prediction. In the dark,
that makes a lot of sense.
Without being right. It all plays full circle here. There's the scene where the faceless man's basically saying, "Yeah, go get her. Don't let her suffer." You know, which I thought was a nice touch. You know, he does care for her. So, I mean, she still hates her. It was never. I guess was it the idea that she was a pretender. She was coming in and like she didn't grow up as a rich as a rich lord or lady, and now this wannabe comes in out of nowhere and it's like encroaching in on her business. I guess that's the reason she disliked her the whole time. It's never clear as to why the waif hates her.
But the waif now is clearly going to enjoy killing Arya, and that doesn't seem like it really is a very faceless man way to do things, right?
Yeah,
she's supposed to be no one.
Isn't that the whole, like, she was giving Arya shit the whole time about having, like, being emotionally invested in things, and now she's exactly. It's very hypocritical.
Yeah, it's a little mixed messages.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just glad the story's going somewhere. Arya retrieving Needle, the sword that her father gave her.
No, John gave her.
Really Is it John? I thought it was her dad.
Yeah.
John gave it
no,
to her.
John had it forged special for her and gave it to her right before he left for the wall.
Okay. So it signifies that she's reclaiming her name. She's going. She this whole being no one thing obviously isn't going to work out. And she's likely going to head back to Westeros, or I'm not sure what's going to happen next. Assuming after she kills the waif, because it's not like the waif is going to go and kill Arya. Like, let's be honest here. That would be just a weird turn. So
Arya's going to kill the waif, and then most likely, try to book passage on a ship that way, because there's nobody else around. That's the only logical place for her story to go, I think. But I mean, they can always surprise us.
I mean, who knows? At this point, I'm interested to see where she goes next. I just know that it's going to be, wherever it is, it's more interesting than the House of Black and White. I can promise you that. All right, so let's move on to King's Landing, another plotline variety of storylines that have been going nowhere for a while, and finally reached a head. Really happy with how this all played out. So we have a scene with Tommen and Margaery. Tommen was talking with the High Sparrow, lets her see Margaery. Margaery's apparently totally bought into this whole High Sparrow craziness, but she's smarter than that, and I'm sure there's some kind of long con being played out here. We just don't know what it is yet.
No, I definitely think Marjorie's playing a larger game here. She is and always has been the politician, and this is just her trying to appease the High Sparrow and the Faith, and still kind of reinforce Tommen's position as king. She just did all this without having communicated with the Queen of Thorns, so there's a miscommunication between the two sides of her family.
Yeah, and we get this. I mean, I agree with you entirely. I think it's never quite as simple as it seems with Margaery, ever. But we do get a really cool scene with Mace Tyrell leading in his army with Jaime onto the Sept. Very cool. Mace gives a pretty good speech, I think. Although he's usually played as a bumbling idiot, but actually he's not a complete idiot. It's a good speech. I'll give him that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you get Jaime, Mace. They walk up. We're expecting Margaery to have to do her walk of atonement like Cersei did last season, but I guess that wasn't the plan. And I was still waiting for that line from the trailer for the season 6 trailer where like he says, "Do you choose violence?" or whatever, and Cersei says, "I choose violence," which I guess I should have saw, right? I guess that's not. I thought that was going to come this episode. Obviously, it doesn't. Did you see this coming at all? This is a complete out of left field for me.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. But it is. I guess it's the High Sparrow also playing the political games and keeping Tommen in his back pocket. Like, what are we supposed to take away from that? Because otherwise, like, why wouldn't they have just had the king be the one announcing that, right? Why the bait and switch?
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's like, so if there was never supposed to be a walk of atonement, what's everyone doing up there? Like, they were going to make this announcement with the king? Like, that was the plan all along? Or
yeah,
like,
have a surprise announcement.
It just seems like very showy. If there never was going to be a walk, why didn't Margaery kind of like tell Jaime to back off or something? Like or at
try
least,
to signal them,
like, make it. Yeah, I don't know. It seems strange. I mean, I like the whole thing. I like that. This is a really cool twist. Like, I did not see this coming at all, and I really liked it. I really did. And this is coming from the guy who I hated the stuff at King's Landing all season. It was so boring, and now this is exciting. Like, where does it go from here? And are those new sigils on the Kingsguard?
Oh yeah, so that was an interesting point. I don't know. They haven't really mentioned who is or is not in the Kingsguard because they've lost a few members. But I guess it's not important. But that is the 7-pointed star on their breastplate, which is the symbol of the faith.
Okay, that's cool. Usually the Kingsguard have the sigil of whatever house is on the throne, right? It was used to be Targaryen.
I guess yeah. They were Targaryens at the Tower of Joy, on the breastplate.
Yeah.
I would assume that they wouldn't have a sigil, but whatever.
Yeah, I think in the books, as far from what I heard, they don't have a.
Well, they shouldn't because they don't belong to any house anymore, right?
Yeah. So I guess what's the implications of this? Tommen comes out and says what, and where does that leave us?
I guess it kind of consolidates the High Sparrow's power in the capital. They already had a lot of power, but now this is the crown and the faith ostensibly on the same side. Even though then it's just like it took everything out from under Jaime, Cersei, the Queen of Thorns.
Okay. Queen of Thorns obviously very blunt in her assessments. Just simple. We lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else? What else? Oh yeah, Jaime gets stripped of his position as Lord Commander of the the Kingsguard.
Yeah, that's
and he's sent to retake Riverrun as head of the Lannister army. This scene's a callback to a scene from season 1 with Sir Barristan Selmy, who died last season, and I'm not like it's weird because Jaime's always like seemed like he's kind of resented the whole Kingsguard thing, or at least he has for the last little while. He's finally out, but now he's but in a way he didn't, not on his terms, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not happy about it. He's being sent away, which I guess is what he's not happy about. Probably not so much the Kingsguard thing, but so he's being sent away to deal with the Tullys at Riverrun, right? Mm-hmm. That's the idea. Do we get this information here, or did we get the scene at the twins first, or the twins scene comes next? I don't know.
No, yeah. This came first. Jaime was sent to Riverrun first.
And then we get the scene the twins. That's a weird way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a strange way to, like, just odd editing. I would have put the twin scene ahead of this scene, just to make things seem a little bit more clear.
I guess, I don't know, they chose this way to remind people that Riverrun's a place, and that so you can keep it in the back of your mind that Jaime's heading there, and then the next scene gives you the context of why Riverrun is important.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would have just done it the other way. So remind us that, let us know that Riverrun is in fact been retaken by the Tullys, which we still didn't know was actually true or not. I do like the idea that they're not just completely concentrated on what's going on in King's Landing, and they're actually sending Jaime to deal with this Blackfish situation, even though it seems like every time we go to King's Landing, it's like they couldn't care less what's happening outside their walls. It's nice to know that they're actually still playing a part in the other parts of the country, which is cool. What else? Okay, so yeah, before we move on to that twin scene, any takeaways? What should we take away from everything that happened at King's Landing?
Just that Tommen has consolidated his power with the faith in King's Landing, so now any attack against the faith is an attack against the crown. It kind of throws a wrench into Cersei and the Queen of Thorns' plans. They can't, forcefully take the Sparrows out of King's Landing anymore.
But if Margaery's back into a position where she isn't stuck in a cage, she's probably able to start acting out a bit more, able to put her plan into action to some degree, assuming she has a plan.
Yeah. Well, I get the impression that she does, although I think this was kind of a desperate move for her, given what her brother said last week, or whenever the last time we saw them was. Like, this is just her trying to save him, essentially.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the twins. We were talking about it a bit earlier, but so we learned that Littlefinger was telling the truth, which we already knew about last week when we got the news that Blackfish, what's his name?
Brynden Tully.
Brynden Tully, retaking Riverrun. Walder Frey, who we haven't seen for a little while, long time no see, isn't happy about it, and is giving the gears to two of his sons for losing the castle. I actually, as much as it's fun to hate Walder Frey, the guy has some really good zingers, like a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like he's like, it's a castle, watch. Not a sheep. I love that. Like, that's hilarious. That's good stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, like, basically, that's all this scene exists only to show us that Edmure Tully, the guy who was married at the Red Wedding, is still alive. He's been a prisoner of the Tullys, of the Freys, and that, I mean, they're not doing a very good job with the stuff they got out of the Red Wedding. Basically, they're mismanaging their assets. What else would I? What else?
So now Edmure is also being sent to Riverrun, most likely, right? They're using him as a bartering chip.
You'd assume so. I mean, like, what else? There's really nothing else you can use him for. Mm-hmm. He has to. You hope that the Blackfish will try to get him back in a way, cut some kind of deal, maybe.
That's their plan. Also, Edmure is technically the Lord of Riverrun, or the heir to Riverrun, so the Blackfish has no claim to the castle if Edmure is still alive.
Okay, that makes sense. What else do we have? Oh, it's just something I noticed. I picked up. they refer to the Red Wedding as the Red Wedding, which is is that a thing?
Oh yeah, that's the thing in the books as well. Yeah.
Okay, it's I don't know if it's been said on the show before because I know it was like a fan thing has always been but I didn't realize that it was in universe that's how it was referred to. So that's interesting. And so I guess the only big takeaway from this is that, and it's something you'd mentioned earlier, that Riverrun is kind of like a nexus. There's a big convergence coming there soon. We know Brienne's going there. We know the Freys are going there. We know that Jaime's going there. We know that the Blackfish is already there. So it's going to play into probably a pretty big storyline by the end of the season. So something cool is going to happen there probably. Anything else that you want to mention about the twins before we move on?
No, that's fine. We got to move this along.
The next scene we get is the scene with where we get the Benjen Stark reveal. Already talked about that, so we'll move on to Essos, somewhere in Essos, the final scene of the week. Dany is asking Daario some questions like how many ships is she going to need?
Which that's a pretty convenient number, right?
1,000? Oh, right.
Yeah, that's the exact same number that that Euron is raising.
Yeah, it was like right. I mean,
no, it's just funny like that they decided to
like that's and I don't think that's not a coincidence. That's I mean, there's a reason they're using that number consistently for a reason. So she's okay. So and then she just decides she's gonna ride off ahead for seemingly no reason. How did you think she knew? Did she know Drogon was there? Like I guess
she had some sort of sense. She could tell that he was there. That's what we're meant to believe, at least.
Okay, some dragon sense of some kind. Then we got a really cool shot of dragon shadows. Again, they do a really good job with the dragons, making them look very, very, very cool. And here's another one. So she rides in on Drogon, who looks even bigger than last time we saw him. It seems like every time we see Drogon, he's gained like another whole like. He's like doubled in size every time we see him practically. So she gives some really big speech here. Very, I mean, it's odd because it seemed like
she already had their loyalty.
Yeah, right. So like, what's the point of the speech exactly?
Yeah,
just to sound cool, I guess.
I guess, like the way I see it, her riding a dragon like that is the stallion that mounts the world, right? Like the Dothraki are all about they respect the rider. And
seals the deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Although
fine. I don't know if I'm okay with it.
It wasn't, but it's like I'll take any dragon scene. Okay, if there's a dragon, I'm not going to turn it down. Okay. Okay, so my question is, and this is we come to the end of the episode. Why is it called Blood of My Blood? Does she say that in the speech?
No. Okay, so she doesn't say it specifically in the speech, but she does mention that every Khal has 3 blood riders, and when a Khal is referring to a blood rider, he'll call them Blood of My Blood. So in her speech, she just basically says that whole Dothraki horde, everybody is blood of her blood. They are her people. That's how I interpret it.
Do you think there's any other meaning? Sometimes the Game of Thrones titles are, usually a little bit more broad. Something like they refer to many things. Obviously, the door is pretty straightforward, but Blood of My Blood. Do you think there's anything else? I mean, we have another incestual kiss with Jaime and Cersei in this. Like maybe that
you could say that Bran and Benjen are of the same blood. They're blood of the same blood, right?
Right. So that's another one.
And there was a weird thing where he made Bran drink. I guess it was rabbit blood. We didn't really touch on it. I don't know if that if it means anything or not. If it's just like a form of sustenance, or if there's some sort of blood magic going on there.
I don't know. All he says is drink this, and he doesn't question it, and he just drinks it. There's no deaths this week, and that's different for
especially for this season.
Yeah. Which is actually it's a big difference.
Well, it's nice. It's good. It's a nice change of pace. You can't. Not every episode. It would be. We've already remarked on how every episode there's been this like surprise you're dead episode scene, right? So
surprise you're dead. Oh man, now that is a good surprise. Whew, got me. And like I mentioned before, I'm kind of giving my overall thoughts on the episode here, so jump in whenever. But I really I liked the episode a lot. I thought it had really good pacing. I was really glad with that I mentioned earlier that a lot of these stagnant storylines are actually moving forward, going somewhere. This is the 5th episode of the season, right? Or sorry, the 6th episode of the season. You really feel things ramping up to a climax in the next couple episodes somewhere. In a way that the seasons haven't really been doing that. Like the last 2 kind of flipped the script a little bit in a way where it didn't really feel like it was ramping up at the same
this
degree.
feels very much more like season 1 and 2, how it's the way that it's structured.
I mean, we had a pretty good idea where those were leading. Like, okay, so the Blackwater, or like, the fight on the wall in season 4. But this, I'm not even sure where it's leading to exactly. Like, what the big episode 9 event is going to be. But I know there's going to be something.
Okay, I'm still saying that the big one is going to be the wall again, but with White Walkers rather than Wildlings. We also know that there's a big battle at Winterfell coming up. People are converging there. We mentioned that people are converging at Riverrun.
I would be happy with Winterfell being the episode 9, like a more traditional like siege and like battle scene. Less magic, if any. More. I'll be okay with that.
And then also, Dany has to go back to Meereen, and that's when she meets up with Tyrion and Varys and everybody. That's going to be big as well.
Yeah, that's not like a big episode 9 reveal kind of thing, but like she does need to meet up with her advisors again, and
she does. She seems like she's very much about going to Westeros. She's like doesn't care about staying in Meereen anymore. She was just like, we're going.
It's all of a sudden it's like flip a switch. Hey, I'm tired of wasting all you guys' time over here on this side of the of the world. Let's get involved with the actual story, which
she's
everyone
back
who's
to her
watching,
roots, right? Fire and blood.
Everyone who's watching is happy about this. It's kind of a quick heel turn in a way, because for so long she's been saying she has to stay in Meereen for longer. She's ready. She's not ready. Now she is ready now.
So I think what it was is Drogon taking her away, like flying on the dragon, is what brought her back. Like that's who she really is the dragon rider, the conqueror.
But like then what's the deal with all the what's it called? What's the deal with like everything we just did this season with her? What's the point of all that if she's just gonna ride in on a dragon like she did at the end of last season?
Yeah.
Doesn't it just feels like you said, like just stumbling in the dark? She tripped, fell, and landed with an army.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the theme of Daenerys' life thus far.
It's not fair to it's not that bad.
She has good intentions, of course, and she tries. It's not quite that black and white.
It could. I guess what we're saying is it could be done a little bit more smoothly. It does feel a little bit clumsy, like you said.
But the whole purpose of that is that everything that she's doing in Meereen is not her character, not who she really is, and she's just spinning her wheels.
Yeah, well, we knew that. No Jon or Sansa this week, which is pretty disappointing. Like, or would normally be pretty disappointing if these storylines hadn't actually moved, because that, like I've said 1,000 times, this season is my favorite plotline this season. So I'm excited to see what happens with that next week. Assuming they're back next week. I have no really major complaints about this episode. Like I said, just some weird scene selection, like the way they put where they put the stuff with the phrase. I would have put that before the Jaime thing. And like I said, the pacing overall was pretty good. I liked everything with Sam at where are they at again? What's the Hornhill? So general, I liked it. I don't know. I wouldn't score it. We don't really do that. But so why don't you give your final thoughts on this episode, and we'll.
I mean, it was definitely like we said before, a change of pace, a slower episode. It was actually also shorter. It was only 50 minutes or something like that, but it felt fairly long for me. I know I'm very happy with where everything's moving. I'm really happy about the Arya stuff. I'm ready for her to rejoin the fray, so to speak, and also she was spinning her wheels, right?
Yeah, I mean that's like I was saying. That's like the theme of this episode is that.
Yeah, it's like a return to your identity.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I like last week's episode was like peak Game of Thrones for me.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't quite that good. I did like the lack of death. That was a nice change. And I mean, overall, pretty happy with this.
Yeah.
With this, the way this season's kind of coming together. I had some pacing issues early in the season. Like I thought things were moving a bit too quick, being forced, like just things happening because the script says they need to happen, not that they felt natural. But I think now it's kind of it's evened out a little bit, or maybe I'm just more used to this faster pace. But it's an improvement. So especially over last season, which I know you hated. Mm-hmm. So. All right, I think we can wrap it up there. Unless you have any other thoughts on this episode.
No, I'm just most excited about Bran. See where they're headed, and what kind of crazy supernatural shit they can get up to.
I mean, every time we see Bran, like I said, it was really cool seeing all that stuff like from the past with the Mad King and all that kind of that stuff like that. We just don't see that. We went from never seeing flashbacks on the show to getting, more than we bargained for in flashbacks this season. Okay, well, on that note, we will be back next week for Season 6, Episode 7, The Broken Man. And you guys can follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. Send us any emails, towerbabblepodcast@gmail.com, and find everything we do at our website, towerbabblepodcast.com. And we will see you guys next week. This week's Game of Thrones theme cover is a metal cover performed by Gepetti. You can find their work on YouTube.